elbows up, Canada. Canada is furious, and Canada is having its voice heard. We're under 10 days from the big election in Canada. We had the big debate take place this past week, the first one in French, then a debate in English. And Canadians are letting the world know that they are the front lines of resistance to the Trump regime. And now it's kind of funny that like the media in America is first kind of picking it up right now. I saw this on CNBC. Canadian small businesses are taking Trump tariffs personally. You think we're also seeing the tourism numbers, not just in Canada, which have plummeted to almost like zero at this point with the boycott of all things American, boycott American products, boycott tourism. But Canada has set the example for the rest of the world. Those international tourism numbers have dropped as Donald Trump attacks our allies, now I guess former allies, based on how Trump's treated them. And also people don't want to end up in detention centers or concentration camps in El Salvador. Let's take a look at what went down in the debate between the leaders of the various parties in this election. You have Prime Minister Carney leading the Liberal Party. And Prime Minister Carney says the biggest risk to the Canada and the Canadian economy is Trump. Here, play this clip.
The biggest risk we have to affordability, the biggest risk we have to this economy is Donald Trump. So first and foremost, we've got to get that right. Second,
to think about as an American in a Canadian debate, that would be the biggest threat. That's where we are right now under the Trump regime. Here's what Carney said as well. Let's play the other clip.
We are facing the biggest crisis of our lifetimes. Donald Trump is trying to fundamentally change the world economy, the trading system. But really what he's trying to do to Canada, he's trying to break us so the U.S. can own us. They want our land, they want our resources, they want our water, they want our country. And we're all going to stand up against Donald Trump. I'm ready. I've managed crises over the years. I've built strong economies. We will fight back with counter tariffs. We will protect our workers and those businesses, and we will build the strongest economy. We will build Canada strong. I'm asking for your support, the honor of doing so. Thank you.
So how do you think Maple MAGA is responding? Pierre Poilievre, who leads the Conservative Party in these federal elections, he was in Montreal on Friday. As Rachel Gilmore says, it seems like Poilievre is courting the F the Turtles vote in Montreal today. This is what Maple MAGA is talking about. By the way, this is straight out of the Trump playbook, right? Remember when Trump was holding up like the groceries and Trump was like saying, they're going to go after the plastic straws. They're going after we're pro plastic straw, and made that like a centerpiece. Look at Poilievre, the right-wing MAGA Maple guy from the Conservative Party. Play it.
How long does this bread stay fresh and edible if it's not packaged? You ever think of taking your bread out when you go home and just leaving it unwrapped? How many days do you think it would be good before it gets dried out and moldy? How long would the other fresh produce here stay edible if it could not be plastic wrapped? The answer is a lot less time.
It's like an exact image of how Trump ran the campaign. Let's bring in Resistance member Charlie Angus, former member of Parliament. You all know Charlie Angus. Charlie, before getting into the election, you and I haven't had a discussion on the MeidasTouch network in about 2 weeks. You've been busy with the Resistance Elbows Up tour, and you've been going area to area. So tell us, though, what's going on in Canada? What's the sentiment?
Well, Ben, I've been traveling across the country, and you are right in terms of people's determination to resist, whether it's, working class Northern Ontario, whether it's chill Vancouver Island, whether it's in the heart of Alberta, which is supposed to be mega Maple Central, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people coming out, people ready to defend their country, people ready to stand up to Trump, but also people who are really understanding that this is about the future of the rule of law and the future of democracy. And so there's a real determination right now. People are employing the boycott full out. They're watching what's happening with people being snatched off the streets in the United States, the attacks on universities. And it's very concerning. And then it's what the kind of language we're actually seeing now from the MAGA Maple crowd of Pierre Poilievre are repeating so many of the dog whistles that drove the Trump campaign, and what we're seeing right now being played out in Project 2025. This is something the Conservatives are running on. So I'm expecting a huge turnout. We've got the advanced polls are happening right now. So the week before the election, people can vote on the weekend before. The lineups are around the block. That's usually a sign that a government's being turfed out, or that Canadians are not going to let MAGA Maple get control here because of what we've seen in the United States.
What do you make of Trump's recent behavior? Now, you and I have been talking about this for several months. The first time Trump announced the tariffs many, many months ago, and then withdrew it, and then paused it, and continued his rhetoric about 51st state annexation. I mean, just this past week, Donald Trump's chief propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, again used annexation, conquest language about Canada. Then Trump tariffed the world, and then he paused some, but then he kept the 25% on, which he's saying is a fentanyl tariff and a this and a that. And I'm not even sure they can keep track of what they're even doing. But what do you make of the recent behavior?
I think what's really concerning is that an idiot like Trump has been allowed to monkey wrench the global economy without anybody stepping in and saying, "Whoa, Donald, what the heck are you doing?" When we see him tariffing poor Madagascar because Madagascar doesn't buy enough product from the United States. Madagascar is too poor to buy product from the United States, but they offer Americans cheap chocolates. Donald Trump picks a fight with them. The on again, off again tariffs in terms of auto, nobody even knows where that stands. Right now, South Dakota is freaking out, North Dakota, the farmers in Montana, because you have an integrated border in terms of ag trade, $70 billion. All that's in chaos right now. I think he's pushing us towards a major, definitely an American recession, probably a global recession, and maybe a depression if he doesn't step back. But it's up and down. And the thing that really strikes me about Trump and his crew is they're really, really tough until you stand up to them, and then they blink. And that's certainly what's happened with Canada, and Canada has been very strong. And then they come back at it a second and a third time. The feeling I'm getting from Canadians is they don't care what Trump does next. We're going to do what we're going to do. We're looking to rebuild our economy, and we're going to do it without our former ally, our former friend, our former partner. We're going to have to take steps that we're going to take because we simply cannot trust the American regime anymore.
And look, the Maple MAGA crew led by Pierre Poilievre, I mean, I showed the language there about, plastic straws, plastic bags, but, which, by the way, is just insane. But then you move towards some of the other things that they've been talking about, planning to suspend the rule of law, the same types of ideas of disappearing students and promoting a Doge version in the North, basically, huh?
What's really surprising, I mean, the usual rule of thumb for conservative candidates and campaigns in Canada is as the campaign moves on, you move more to the center, you quieten down your crazy base, and you try and appeal to, the independent, non-aligned voter. But Pierre Poilievre isn't doing that because that's not MAGA, and that's not what the fascist playbook is. The fascist playbook is to say boldly what you're going to do. So we see after the horrific disappearances and deportations of Americans to El Salvador, Pierre Poilievre bragging that he's going to invoke what we have in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Notwithstanding clause that in certain circumstances allows government to overrule the rule of law. It was supposed to be an emergency measure in case a legal decision overstepped bounds in terms of democratic rights. He's saying he's going to invoke this to take away the rights of his so-called criminal class. But when you have a prime minister, a guy running to be prime minister saying he's going to overrule the courts arbitrarily when he feels he wants to, you are then in the same situation of people being illegally deported to El Salvador. He's now saying, after we've seen these students kidnapped and carried, thousands of miles away from home to be deported for for protesting, Pierre Poilievre saying he's going to invoke the same thing. And of course, they use the same language. It's about free speech. Free speech means subservience to Trump, subservience to MAGA Maple, and everyone else are going to be challenged. And then the really disturbing element is what we've seen with the disaster of Doge. Well, a former chief of staff to Prime Minister Stephen Harper, the conservative godfather, was bragging that Pierre Poilievre, if elected, would go quickly after Canada's independent civil service, and that it would be much easier to implement Doge here. We don't have the checks and balances, apparently, that the United States has, so it would be even easier. And I think what the listeners or the viewers are understanding is that once you crush the independent civil service, you crush a functioning democracy. This is what Pierre Poilievre is bringing forward to the Canadian people, along with his idiocy about bread and plastic bags. I think Canadians understand if you elect this guy, you are electing the fascist regime that is the same of MAGA, and you are going to turn Canada over to the Trump agenda.
We know the Trump regime watches these podcasts. They watch our interviews, and they're not too pleased when we have you on. What's your message right now to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
Well, Donald Trump, I'm going to say this once, and I might never say it again. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for bringing Canada together. It took such a malignant, narcissistic slug like you to make us put aside all of our differences, all our regional fights, all of our concerns with each other, and realize that we actually had to stand up for something better, which is standing up for the rule of law, standing up for democracy, standing up for decency. And we know that we're on your border, and it freaks you out because you and your incel gang are so freaked out about diversity, equity, inclusion, your DEI nightmare. Well, we are your DEI nightmare, Donald, because Canada is always going to be a country of diversity. We will always be a country of equity. We will always be a country of inclusion, and we will defend the rule of law. And if you want to continue fighting with us, you are going to lose at the end of the day. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt us, but we are true. We are North. We are strong. We are free, and we are ready for this fight, Donald. So make up your mind. Quit your fighting on social media with us. Tell us what you're going to do, because we're moving on and we're going to stand and hold the line.
Resistance member Charlie Angus. Charlie, we've loved following your Resistance Elbows Up tour. We've been featuring it here on the network, so we look forward to seeing some more.
You will see it very soon. Elbows up.
Elbows up. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.